All right, today we're tackling something pretty heavy. How do you survive the first hour after a nuclear blast? Now, this is a plan for something we all hope never, ever happens. But look, knowledge is what's going to make all the difference.
Can you even imagine waking up to this? Just blinking at your phone? Ballistic missile threat inbound. For people in Hawaii back on January 13th, 2018, this wasn't some movie plot. This was real, and it threw the entire state into total chaos. It really makes you think, though, what if it hadn't been a false alarm? For 38 minutes, just think about that. 38 pure, terrifying minutes. People thought their world was ending. We heard stories of people just leaving their cars on the highway, parents hiding their kids in bathtubs. I mean, just pure, unfiltered panic. And you know what it showed? It showed that most of us, well, we're just not ready for something like this.
Okay, so let's shift gears. Let's move away from that fear and get into the facts. Because here's the thing, surviving a nuclear attack is way more possible than you've probably been led to believe. That whole idea of total, instant annihilation, it's really not the whole story.
And we've got the data to prove it. This number, 71%, is from Hiroshima in 1945. Think about that. Despite the absolute horror and devastation, the vast majority of the population, 71%, actually survived the initial blast. That's not just a guess, that's a fact. And it tells us that survival isn't just a fantasy.
If you need more proof, look no further than the story of this man, Tsutomu Yamaguchi. His story is, well, it's unbelievable. He is the only person officially recognized to have survived both atomic bombs. His experience is maybe the ultimate lesson in just how much quick thinking matters.
So, picture this. It's August 6th, 1945. He's in Hiroshima on a business trip. He actually sees the bomber. And in that split second, as the bomb goes off, he does the one thing he can think of. He dives into a ditch. Now, he was badly burned. He couldn't see for a while. But that one simple action, it saved his life.
And this is where the story gets truly insane. Just 3 days later, he's back home in Nagasaki, and it happens again. The second bomb. This time, he was saved by a reinforced stairwell. It just goes to show how much having a solid structure around you matters. And get this, he wasn't the only one. There were at least 165 people who were known to have survived both blasts. Incredible.
All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. To really understand how to survive, we need to know what kind of threat we're even talking about. And spoiler alert, it's not the Cold War movie scenario of thousands of missiles flying back and forth.
What modern authorities are most worried about is something called an improvised nuclear device, or an IND. Basically, think of it as a smaller, low-yield nuke. We're talking about a 10-kiloton device, the kind a terrorist group might get their hands on. It's not a planet killer, but it's still absolutely catastrophic.
And just to give you some scale here, a 10-kiloton IND is roughly the size of the Hiroshima bomb. It's powerful, for sure, but it is nothing compared to something like the Tsar Bomba, the biggest bomb ever blown up. That thing was over 3,000 times more powerful. So with an IND, we're talking about a terrible disaster with tens of thousands of casualties, not millions. It's survivable.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. Look at how this is broken down into zones. Your survival literally comes down to two things: how far you are and what's between you and the blast. I mean, if you're within 200 meters in that fireball, there's no way. But look, just over a kilometer out, in the thermal radiation zone, just having a solid brick wall between you and the flash could be the difference between life and death. And that brings us to the most important point of all. If you make it through that initial flash and blast, what you do in the next hour, that's everything. This is where knowing the plan isn't just helpful, it's the only thing that matters.
So, what's the first sign? You're going to see a flash of light so bright, it'll feel like the sun just appeared next to you. That is your signal. That's your cue to move. You've got maybe a few seconds before the shockwave hits, and it's moving faster than a hurricane. So you get down and you get behind something solid, immediately.
Honestly, if you only take one thing away from this whole explainer, make it this. 3 steps. That's it. Get inside. Stay tuned. This is the official advice from emergency services, and it's the absolute cornerstone of survival. Say it with me. Get inside, stay tuned.
But what does get inside even mean in that moment? What's a good shelter when you've only got seconds to pick one? Because yeah, the choice you make right then is pretty darn critical.
Okay, so the name of the game is density. You want to put as much heavy, dense stuff between you and the outside as possible. Think concrete, brick, even just plain old dirt. That's why basements and subway stations are your best bet. If you're in a big office building, don't run for the lobby. Head for the very center of the building, away from windows. And definitely get out of your car. A car, a mobile home, a wooden house, they're basically useless. All right, so you've made it inside. You're in a good shelter. You can breathe for a second, right? Well, not quite. The next threat is already there with you. It's invisible, and it's called radioactive fallout.
But here's some good news. One incredibly simple action can have a massive impact. Just by taking off your outer layer of clothing, you can remove up to 90% of the radioactive dust that's on you. 90%! That's huge! So here's the decontamination checklist. Step 1. Gently take off your outer clothes. Try not to shake them and kick up dust. Step 2. Put them in a plastic bag, seal it, and get it as far away from people as possible. Step 3. Shower. Lots of soap and water. And here's a weird but super important tip. Do not use hair conditioner. It acts like glue for radioactive particles. No shower? No problem. A wet cloth or wipe to clean off any exposed skin is your next best option.
And this chart, this shows you why stay inside is so important. Look at how fast the radiation from fallout disappears. After just 1 hour, half of it is gone. After a day, 80% of it is gone. Time is literally your best friend in this scenario. The longer you can stay put, the safer it gets outside.
So when you put it all together, what does it mean? It means your survival isn't just about luck. It's not determined by the blast itself. It's determined by you. By the choices you make in those first few minutes, that first hour. It's all about knowing the plan.
So, one last time, because it's that important. If you forget everything else we've talked about, just remember this. Get inside, stay tuned. That's it. That's the mantra that could save your life.
And that really leaves us with the final question, doesn't it? You have the knowledge now, but in a moment of total panic, could you actually do it? Could you act on that plan? That's the real test. Something to think about. Thanks for watching.